And welcome everybody to another Smart Money Circle show. I'm Adam Sarhan. With me today is Eric Schlorff, who's the CEO of SeaStar Medical, ticker symbol ICU. Eric, thank you so much for taking the time and welcome to the Smart Money Circle.
Well, thanks, Adam. Look forward to being here.
Eric, I always like to begin. Can you tell us a little about your story and how you got to where you are today, please?
Yeah, so me personally, I'm a science guy by background, so biology and chemistry background, pharmacology, master's, went to business school, and then took about a 20-year detour through a chemical company called Dow Chemical, where I was actually able to get a lot of great experience in both business finance as well as commercial, as well as managing money for their pension plan and their alternative investments. And so in around 2019, decided that I really wanted to get back to my roots of healthcare, which is how I found and joined SeaStar Medical and was named the CEO in July of 2019.
Congrats.
And the rest is kind of history.
Nice. Please tell us a little about your business.
Yeah, so SeaStar Medical is a company that is focused on changing and disrupting kind of the medical community in the sense that we have a therapy that's able to change the consequences of hyperinflammation. So this is where patients have inflammation that's really out of control. We've been able to show through what looks like a medical device, but we can really restore the immune system back into a reparative state. And so, what does that really mean for patients and for families? In the initial indications in acute kidney injury, it's a coin flip whether these patients actually live or die with the standard of care. We've been able to show that we can reduce that mortality rate and cut it in half. But not only that, no patient is on dialysis long term. So
Nice.
their kidneys are fully recovering. So we should see about a quarter of those patients with the standard of care. Imagine a life without dialysis. That's what we do. We imagine a life for these patients, not only children but adults without dialysis long term.
Wow, I absolutely love that. And then let's talk about some of the competitive advantages, please, or unique value propositions, anywhere you want to go.
Yeah, so I would say what's really unique about it is that the standard of care, we're a simple bolt-on today. So it takes about 15 minutes for hospital staff to actually introduce the SCD, or in pediatrics, we call it Quellimune. That's the trademark because it quells the immune system for these children. And so it doesn't take very long. The footprint's already out there, all the machines that it uses, there's no capital equipment. They're basically, the hospital systems would be buying a disposable. And what's unique about it is that we we are considered a medical device, so we actually get the benefit of going through medical device regulatory processes, which are they're still very high kind of bar, but they don't require as many clinical studies as maybe a biological drug or a pharmaceutical drug. And so we're actually overseen by the biologics division of the FDA. And so it kind of gives us a really, because of the autologous cell therapy nature, and you know all about autologous cell therapy, it's expensive, it's really tricky. Ours is shelf life is like 3 years. It's stable at room temperature. You can imagine this being very disruptive, that when somebody has a problem, they can just grab it off the shelf. They're not waiting weeks for it to be there. They can actually address the problem today. And so we look at it from that perspective, and also the way that we're addressing the market from a value capture standpoint. It's about $10,000 to $20,000 for the all-in kind of treatment cost. And if this was a drug, it would probably be $500,000. We just look at this as trying to really expand the pie rather than try to take all of the pie.
Wow, it sounds also like the patient doesn't have to stay on that drug forever, so to speak. Whereas, yeah,
No, no,
it,
that's exactly right. So they're usually on it for about 3 to 7 days, and then they're off, and they can walk and they can go back home and go ride their bike or go, hang out with their friends. They have a normal life at that point. That's the way that we've been able to show and see through our clinical results, as well as now we're commercially available, and we've announced one of the hospitals that's actually using the product today. So we're actually also approved.
oh wow, congratulations. That is really fantastic. Before we go into the rest of the interview, you said the word inflammation. I I'd love to learn. So can you speak a little about that, please, and how you would address that or help with that?
Yeah, so when people think about inflammation, I mean, you can obviously take Tylenol or Advil and these types of things, and those hit a certain receptor within the body, and it does help kind of the housekeeping inflammation. But what we're talking about is inflammation when it hits and the body kind of turns on itself. So you think about a snowball. As a snowball goes down the hill, it gets bigger and bigger. That's the kind of inflammation we're talking about, which is what COVID did, especially in the early days where it literally was destroying organs. So the way that pharmaceutical companies normally go at it is that they go after these cytokines, is what they call them. You probably have heard of these, where they try to go after one specific cytokine. And so what that is really like, think about this is only one piece of the whole chain, but it's the tail of the dog, not the head of the dog or the body of the dog. And so it's kind of an afterthought, and it's because it's really a signaling mechanism. But what we're able to do is actually take inflammation at the source, and we can actually turn the volume of the inflammatory process down, allowing the body to naturally go back into a healing state.
Wow, I love that. That is so
And
powerful.
and it happens, yeah, and it happens in acute and chronic diseases. So this isn't just for ICU patients. Dialysis itself is a very highly inflammatory process. You have cardiovascular diseases, you have respiratory diseases, liver failure, you've got brain or neurologic diseases. It is really, we love to see the palette. You know, it's a very open palette of what we can actually go and chase after.
Okay, so that was actually my next question about acute versus chronic, but thank you for answering that. All right, Eric, next question for you. How do you handle risk, and what are some mistakes you see people make with respect to risk management, please?
Yeah, I mean, look, risk is obviously at the forefront, but it's also you have to balance it with the reward. So you have to take calculated risks. And so, what people do is I see a lot of folks around, from a commercial standpoint, try to take on too much risk of let's get all the salespeople together. Before it gets approved, let's think we're going to blow this thing out. And then it's just a house of cards. And so what we look at it is how do we actually build this very methodically and do it in a very stepwise. Now, it may not bring the revenues in immediately in the beginning, but the thing is that it's about creating a foundation. As you know, when you're trying to go do something, you can go fast, you can go slow. We see it as we're going to go slow so that we can actually go fast. That's the way we look at it, and that's how you kind of manage risk, in my opinion, as well. Is that if you're able to kind of get your head around it and really kind of take it and be very methodical and just do what's right and not try to chase what people want you to do, but just do what you know is the long-term value creation, right? Because you can get caught in the whole short-term kind of cycles of quarterlies. We just look at it as this is a longer-term play that we know there's significant shareholder value to be created, and we'd probably do ourselves and our investors a disservice if we only looked at it as a short-term play.
That's funny. We were just speaking about that before we hit record about the time. Yep. All right, beautiful. So, what are some timeless lessons you've learned along the way that you'd like to share with the audience, whether it's business,
Yeah.
personal, anywhere you want to go?
I mean, with the company, as we were kind of talking before, it's about persistence. So, it's do you have something that you know works? And we do. We're just a persistent group of employees and focused on the patient. And I think that's the timeless lesson for me is that this is a group that's not focused on what our compensation is, what our long term, we're not focused on the personal gains, we're focused on the patients. And when you do that, you actually accelerate the opportunity and you stay focused on what makes the most sense. And, obviously we're focused on our shareholders, as much as the patients, but the patients are what drive the opportunity. And so if we don't get that right, shareholders aren't going to make a penny, and neither are employees or, anybody that's putting their time in here. And so for us, I'm also a big believer of being aligned with our investors. And we did that back in August of 2023, where we took a portion of our own compensation in shares in the company, and we put our money where our mouth is, and we laid it all on the line. And there's nothing to me that gets better. Being a fiduciary as I was with Dow's pension plan, I understand the criticality and the critical natures of you being aligned with the investors.
That's awesome. I love that. So let's talk about some timeless mistakes you've made or you've seen other people make, and how do you avoid them?
Well, we all make a lot of mistakes. I would say one of the mistakes was definitely, oh, what's one of the best, the timeless mistakes? I was going to say around, we get caught. I know that you get caught in a where you don't have money to be able to do certain things that you want, and so really trying to be overly prudent and not put the right resources where they need to be. And I would say that's probably one of them. And it might be things like making sure we have the right CFO on board. That's probably one of those mistakes that would have helped a long bit ago, because you go, well, you can't really afford this, but you need it, and the kind of the back and forth that goes with that. And then once you do have the right person in place, just your world opens up immediately, and then you go, whoa, shoot, I wish I would have done that a lot sooner. But you're trying to save money. You're trying to stretch everything to focus on the clinical aspect and moving the clinical programs. But there's some critical roles that definitely that I wish that I would have filled with the right folks much earlier.
I love that. And then what about adversity, obstacles? How do you handle adversity, and what are some obstacles you've had to overcome?
Yeah, I mean, every day we have obstacles. Quite frankly, it's just part of the nature of the beast. I mean, when you're in a growth phase, that's just what happens. But you have to be positive about everything. Especially as a leader, you can't be too discouraged. Definitely around your folks, you have to make sure that you're always there to help, kind of be a realistic cheerleader. I mean, I'm not going to be somebody that's blowing smoke up somebody. It's really, you got to be honest with people, to tell them, here's where we're at. Here's all the aspects that make this thing tick. And so um, we just, with adversity, it's just another challenge. Once you get through that challenge, we always think about, this is another chapter in the book. And can you imagine when we go back and read this thing, the journey is going to be quite worth the wait.
I love it. It's funny because a lot of people try to say that they don't have mistakes and look away from adversity and look at the reward side of the equation, not the risk side. But the fact that you're speaking to all of it, it's a testament to someone who's succeeded and continues to succeed, winners win type of a thing. So I love
Yeah.
that. Let's talk about the best piece of advice. Last question for you today, Eric, that you'd either give the audience or your 30-year-old self.
Mm. I would say follow your passion. That's the advice I would definitely give myself. When I look back, I had an opportunity to be associated with this company many, many years before, and I think that I probably wish that I would have done it sooner, because one of the things that I learned is that there's a lot of things you can control and there's a lot of things you can't control. But
Right.
one of the things that you can control is execution. And one of the things I saw with this company was just poor execution over the years. And that's where I wish that I would have actually given myself that advice and said, "What, you could have done this a long time ago and really helped the company and a lot more patients today by just following some simple rules around executing." And so that would be the thing. And also, don't take myself too seriously. you know, Again, I have a lot of fun and laugh a lot at myself. So because I can't take myself too seriously, you have to leave ego at the door and just be as humble with each and every person.
I couldn't agree with you more. I love that. As I'm laughing now, yeah, it's one of those things we just, before we even spoke, I said, well, relax and enjoy. I love it, Eric. I think you're speaking you gave some really, really powerful wisdom there, some timeless advice, which is the whole point of the show. It's lots of things you can't control, but I love the fact that you said you can control execution. So most people get caught up in what they don't control and they get lost in the sauce. My friend Andy says that they can just go off on a tangent and they miss what they can actually focus on, which I think is brilliant, which is the execution part, because you can execute. You just got to do it.
You got to do it, and it takes a lot of
Just got
hard
to do
work,
it.
but
Yeah.
you can do it.
Beautiful. Well, Eric, thank you so much for coming on the show. What is the best way for people to learn more about SeaStar?
We have a website at www.seastarmedical.com. We also have a YouTube channel showing a lot of the mechanism of action. And so as you go through the website, it should be under Quellimmune or one of our programs. You should see a link out there to a YouTube channel, which is, I believe, also under SeaStar Medical. So that's where I would go learn a lot more, as well as we have a treasure trove of SEC filings that for those that want to go on that angle.
I love that. I'll put the link to YouTube and to your website in the description so people could just click on it to make it easy for them. But thank you so much for coming on the show, and hopefully we'll have you on again soon. This is fantastic.
Awesome. Thanks, Andy.